In a world filled with selfish and greedy humans, Woo Jin, our protagonist, was born at the bottom of the food chain. As a weak boy, he was bullied and looked down on, and for that reason, he hated the world. Without a reason to love the world, he developed a strong distrust towards humans, and no matter what he did, he knew he'd always end up alone. In January 2020, the world changed completely and became more like a video game. Dungeons appeared around the world, and monsters came pouring out of them. With those monsters came destruction and death. But the appearance of the monsters, divine beings that were called Nimbus, appeared as well. These beings granted a minority of people special powers called the Authority, and the people who received the authority could awaken as players who could destroy the dungeons where the monsters came from. The world believed that those who possessed those special powers would save the world, but to their surprise, that wasn't the case. The players who were blessed by the Nimbus took advantage of the chaos caused by the monsters and used it to fulfill their twisted desires. In a situation like this, people thought it was the end of the world. But to our protagonist, it was the same as before, where there was no one he could trust even after he had awakened as a player. At least until he met him, the first amongst 7 people who were chosen to become a player. He was the player selected by the Executioner of the Holy Light, the world's strongest player. Unlike the other players, Sejun protected the weak from monsters without asking for anything in return. When he unsheathed his sword, even the strongest of monsters couldn't stand against him. Sejun told our protagonist Woo Jin about his goal of making his way to the final boss of the game and ending it once and for all. And just like that, Woo Jin, along with many other heroes, started to gather around Seo Jin with the goal of saving the world by his side. It was the first time our protagonist met comrades he could trust and follow. If it were with them, he believed he could change the world for the better. Finally, after years of battling monsters, they finally made it to the lair of the final boss. As he prepared for the final battle, Woo Jin was suddenly stabbed in the chest by the very man he followed. As he dropped to the floor with a sword in his chest, Se Jin expressed how grateful he was for his assistance, even going as far as saying he wouldn't have come this far without his help. As Balmung's curse, one of Se Jun's debuff abilities, kicked in, Woo Jin asked if he planned to kill him from the start and what was his motive behind ending his life. Almost immediately, Se Jun's hot assistant came out from the shadows. She then explained that if the boss of the game is killed, their powers along with all the monsters would disappear, and they'd return to their normal pointless lives. But if things remained the way they were, the entire world would continue to obey them, and they'd be able to rule the world. As they stared down at the dying warrior, Woo Jin was instantly overcome by rage. But sadly, this is no Dragon Ball, so he can't transform his way out of this one. Before he lost consciousness, he realized the rest of his comrades along with him were killed. In a truly heartbreaking scene, he called out to the man he once followed, begging him for a reasonable explanation behind what he's doing, but he didn't get a response. With his last breath, he reflected on how he was right from the start. In the end, there wasn't a single human he could truly trust. With a heart filled with regret, his lifeless body dropped to the floor. But in a jaw-dropping scene, Woo Jin's eyes burst open from what seemed to be a nightmare. Was that really a dream, or did he somehow get a second chance at life? We will find out in the next episode.